Suddenly red shirts flooding back. Chance for Cristiano Ronaldo!
Stuttgart, Bayer Leverkusen, Girona, Leicester City, and most recently, Ipswich. There's one common aspect about these teams. When you remember very well when Leicester won the Premier League back in 2015-2016 season, they had finished 10th. They had finished 14th in the previous season, that is the 2014-2015 season. And prior to that, they were promoted from the championship in 2013-2014. This is the case for other teams. Why am I saying this? The reason as to why I've mentioned all these teams and the common factor between these teams is the fact that there's an element of patience. Today, in football, in the world of football, patience is the most expensive thing that even the bigger clubs, the biggest of the biggest, the richest of the richest cannot afford. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because today in the Premier League, in the world of football, the shareholders and the stakeholders, that is the fans, the club owners, the managers, and the shareholders of the clubs, they lack patience. Everybody thinks that success comes overnight. Whenever a manager is not performing well in 3, 5, 10 games, he's shown the door. Whenever a team is not performing well, people are quick to write that team off. For example, this season, when Chelsea started the season with the new coach, there have been many instances where people have written them off. And even there are some people who have been calling for the sacking of the manager. But now, towards the end of the season, it seems like the tides are changing. And now people all of a sudden are starting to believe that Chelsea are the real deal. People are starting to praise the manager. Yet some 2, 3, 4 months ago, people are calling for his sacking. The same case applies for Manchester United. Today, when you speak to Man U fans, most of them want Ten Hag to be sacked. When you remember very well when Arsenal hired Mikel Arteta, Arsenal went through one of the worst moments in the club's history. They lost games, they drew games that most people expected them to win. They lost, they drew. But then look at them today. Everywhere in the newspaper, everywhere in the news, everybody's talking about Arsenal and Man City and who will win the Premier League. That did not happen overnight. Mikel Arteta has been in the club, I think, for 5 or 6 seasons. Development and success takes time. So I want us to discuss about about a number of teams that I have pinpointed as case studies. And number one, I want us to look at a team in the Bundesliga called Stuttgart. Some will call it Stuttgart. It depends with where you are from. So in 2022-2023 season, Stuttgart was 16th and they narrowly escaped the relegation. Remember, in the Bundesliga, since there are 18 teams, 16th means they are third from last. And this season, that is 1 year later, Stuttgart are third and they have qualified for Champions League. What does this mean? This means that this team has developed over the entire 1 year. They have transformed from being a relegation candidate to a Champions League candidate. Can you believe that? We go to the next case study about Girona. This is a team in La Liga. Girona was 10th last season. That is the 2022-2023 season. In the previous year, in the 2021-2022, it was playing in La Liga 2, and that's when it was promoted to the Bundesliga, to the La Liga, sorry. And this season, Girona is second at the time of recording this video, and they have qualified for Champions League football. Can you believe that? We go to another team in the Championship who will be playing in the Premier League next season, Ipswich Town, and a super manager, I call him super manager, McKenna. This team has won back-to-back promotion. They were playing in the League One the previous season, promoted into the Championship, and now this season they have been promoted into the Premier League. When you look at these teams, they have been developing, they have been having a project where they have been working on this particular project. Remember guys, football project requires time. A football project requires patience. Players, fans, coaches, and everybody each of these stakeholders have their own roles to play in terms of patience. And the reason as why I said patience is the most expensive commodity or product or aspect today in the world of football is because most people, most teams, most stakeholders cannot afford it. When you look at Arsenal, when Arsenal developed, you remember in the last 6 or so seasons, the Premier League has been between Liverpool and Manchester City. But Arsenal had a project and they entrusted Mikel Arteta. They have backed the coach irrespective of the results. They knew what was happening. They trusted the process. And let me tell you, when you're working on a project, especially with young players, you don't necessarily have to look at the output in terms of the results. You will lose games, yes. You will not win titles, yes. But it's very important for you as a team to believe that whatever you are doing is the right thing and is the best way to go about it. The teams that have highlighted, for example, the Stuttgart case study, this team, when it was going for relegation, it's not that they didn't have a project, they had a project. But the results that season did not work in their favor. And that's why they were contenders for relegation, if there is something like that. But this season, they enter the Champions League. This is something that I've noticed. The Manchester City dominance in the Premier League today and in the world of football provides the best avenue for these other clubs to develop. This is the best time for these other teams to start afresh and develop projects that will go on to dominate the Premier League in the coming 3, 4, 5, 6 years. This is the reason why. Nobody expects Chelsea or Man United to win the Premier League next season. Nobody expects Tottenham Hotspur, for example, to win the Premier League next season. What does this do? It releases the players off the pressure. So when the expectations are low and you're walking into next season, nobody is exerting pressure on you guys to win the Premier League. Nobody is exerting pressure on you to finish in the top 2. That's the best time to work on the project. That is the best time to gain the momentum. And when the time is right, and you guys have already built the momentum, you've built, what will I call it? You've built the psychological understanding of how these things work. You've built the mentality of the winning mentality. That's when you guys can start giving a go. Manchester United, I want to speak to Manchester United fans. To me, I see that's the rock bottom that the club has gone. Having lost 14 games this season, conceding the goals the way they conceded against Crystal Palace, compounded with the loss against Arsenal, as well as what happened to their field, to their stadium. Old Trafford was like an open air where the rain just falls and it was flooding. This is the rock bottom such a club would ever fall. And what I believe is there is nowhere you cannot fall beyond rock bottom. This is the time to come together as a club, as the fans, back the manager, back the players. Those players will be sold in the summer, let them be sold. Those who will remain, let them remain. This is the time to build the club. This is the time to build the momentum. This is the time to build the mentality. And come 2-3 seasons from now, you guys will be somewhere. It does not necessarily mean that if you start building today, next season you'll win the Premier League. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a process. It's a journey. And it's a journey full of patience, where you have to shelve other needs, other short-term needs for long-term gain. You have to look and see, it's okay if you don't contend for the title next season. It is okay if you're not in the top 4, but you have your eyes focused on the long-term goal. Another example is Bayer Leverkusen, the invisibles in the Bundesliga this season. When you look at that team, when the season was starting, nobody would have believed that Bayer Leverkusen would have gone unbeaten. What did that do to them? It releases them. It released them of the burden and the pressure. And so whatever they have been able to do is because of the momentum that they built behind the curtains, behind the cameras, when nobody was thinking about Bayer Leverkusen winning their league. That's when this momentum was built. And when they got the opportunity, they showcased what they have been building. This is the same case with Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League this season. I remember very well when the Champions League group stage matches, when the groups were ready, and Borussia Dortmund was drawn against some teams, some big teams, the likes of PSG and Newcastle. Most people wrote them off. Most people did not believe that they would have made it through, even past the group stage. They made it through the group stage. Nobody believed that they would make it past the round of 16. They did. Quarterfinals, they did. Most recently, semifinals, they did. And guess what now, guys? They are into the final. This is what the power of an underdog does. And it worked in favor of other teams that I've mentioned. And trust me, when you are an underdog and there's a team dominating, a big team that's dominating, a big team that carries all the expectations across the world, that is the best time to build a team. That is the best time to organize yourselves. That's the best time to have a project and to have a long-term strategy. So guys, what I think is, for Manchester United, for Chelsea, these are the teams that seem to be struggling. These are the teams that seem to be inconsistent. What I can tell you guys, mostly the fans, because we the fans are always the most impatient. If we can only relax for a bit and give those players the support that they need and be patient with those players, allow them to make mistakes, because that's when they learn. Nobody wants to make mistakes just for the sake of it. If somebody makes a mistake, let them make a mistake and learn from it. That has been the case in other teams. When you see, when Arsenal was starting to play from the back, they made mistakes. But today when you look at them playing, you can hardly see any mistake that these guys make. And the same case applies to other football teams. So indeed, patience is so expensive in the world of football that even the biggest clubs, the richest of the richest, cannot afford. Let me know what you guys think on the comment below. If you like this video, if you love this content, please like this video, subscribe, share it, and tell your friends to tell a friend to tell their friends. Thank you guys. See you next time. Wow.